Hello, chess family. It's me, National Master Jesse James. It's time for another instructive chess miniature. This time with F.M. Geller, one of the people that Fischer himself had a hard time with. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at this nice Ruy Lopez masterpiece that he's going to be creating here. Here we go. We start with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Over 500 years old and still kicking butt, Ruy Lopez is here again. Pawn a6, Morphy's defense, bishop to a4. Knight f6 attacks the pawn. We go ahead and castle. This is the main line here. And here black just plays bishop b7. Of course, you can look at the knight takes e4 lines, but this typically does give white very good attacking chances with the king still in the center. So here, black plays one of the main lines and safer lines to play here. Bishop to e7. Rook goes over to e1 to defend the pawn. Pawn to b5. Bishop to b3. d6. Pawn to c3 here. One of the nice ideas with this d6 idea, it's very tricky for some people to understand, is that, well, it defends the pawn. Why is that tricky? Well, because here the bishop is pretty much trapped. If it was up to black last move, he would have played knight a5 and just won this light square bishop. This is one of the important attacking pieces. With that being said, if he played the knight a5 right away, well, after knight takes e5, you just drop the pawn. So, what do you do here? Well, here you want to play pawn to c3. This helps build up the d4, the Ruy Lopez pawn center, and also gives the escape square for the bishop over here with c2. And, well, black goes ahead and castles here, and pawn h3 gets played. Another little in-between move here, because, well, again, if you do play d4 right away, there's a little bit of trickery right now. What's that? Here, black would play bishop g4, hence why we play h3. Why is bishop g4 annoying? Well, here, the knight is one of the main defenders for the d4 pawn. So, well, if you get rid of this knight, this can be a little bit of trouble for hanging on to d4. For instance, if you play h3 right away, after bishop takes on f3, well, either you get double pawns or you lose a pawn. So if queen takes on f3, e takes d4, and, well, black is not too unhappy with the situation. And then, of course, if you play g takes f3, so you can maintain your queen to defend the pawn, well, now you got these bad double pawns. Okay, back to the game. Here, white plays h3 to stop this bishop g4 from happening. Pawn to h6, pawn to d4. This h6 move was played because, well, there's some little variations here where you can force a draw with something like knight to g5. With that being said, I don't see why black would be afraid of this. I guess black was really just trying to play for that win and not allow any kind of drawing chances. I'm sure Geller appreciated it. Pawn to d4 got played. This is also known as the Semislav defense. Rook over to e8 and knight to d2. Here, the knight cannot get out to its good squares, so we have to do what's called Steinitz knight maneuver. And the idea is the knight b1 to d2, f1, and then the knight makes a decision of either going to e3 or to g3. Bishop f8, knight to f1, bishop to b7, and knight to g3. All right, queen to d7. One of the ideas of this Semislav defense is that black is looking about taking on d4 at some point so that you can put pressure on the e4. And you can see that the bishop's aimed over this way, the knight's aimed over this way, the rook's aimed over this way. And here, well, Geller comes up with a very nice idea here and plays d takes on e5. Typically not a normal move to play here. Well, typically white wants to keep the center closed because white's going for a kingside attack. With that being said, well, this is opening up the center. Why would you do that? Well, here, Geller has a nice tactical idea. After d takes on e5, can you find the move that that gives Geller the only advantage in this position as white? All right, hopefully push pause. Hope you're trying to figure this out. Here, Geller has the beautiful knight to h5. And here you see that the knight is just overloaded here. The knight was trying to guard this square because, well, this knight's one of the main defense for h7. But also the knight is guarding the queen here. And you can't play the queen takes d1 here, as you get a nice intermezzoa or in-between move of knight takes f6 check, giving double pawns to black's kingside. And, well, even though this is a kingside weakness, we won't be checkmating. We will have a very good endgame here with white having a clear advantage. All right, back to the game. So here, well, he goes ahead and plays queen to e7. And, well, let's keep the attack going. Knight to h4. You can see that the knight's looking at this beautiful f5 square. And, well, the knight was hanging. Now we want to bring the queen over with a nice tempo. All right, knight takes on h5. Queen takes on h5. And knight to a5 here. Okay. Here it's time for another nice move here by Geller, and it's white to move. Go ahead and push pause if you want to, or enjoy the show. What do you play here to keep the attack going? There's quite a few good moves here, but only one of them is the best, giving a +7 advantage. All right, hopefully you push pause. Hope you try to figure it out. Develop with a threat. The next piece you should have been looking at was the bishop. And here, hopefully you found it, bishop to g5 exclam. Oh my gosh. Here you can see that the bishop is just attacking the queen. And well, even though there's two different ways to capture, both ways are bad here. In the game, black played queen to d7. But what happens if we try to take on g5 here? Well, hopefully you see it. Now it's forced checkmate in 2 here. Here you get to play knight to g6, and there's no way to stop queen to h8 for checkmate. Of course, the pawn can take on g6 because the bishop is pinning it. And this is one of those things that, well, remember I mentioned the bishop is very important for the attack against this king. That's why black would love to play this knight e5 earlier and win the bishop. Although if you do it too early, you just lose a pawn. And of course, if you look at about playing queen takes on g5, well, here again it's another nice checkmate in 2. Queen takes on f7 check, and it doesn't matter where the king goes because queen to g8 will be check and mate. So the black queen went to d7, and this just allows another nice free tempo move. Rook over to a to d1, bishop to d6, and here, well, let's crush through. Bishop takes on h6 here, a move that's very, very common in these Ruy Lopez, especially when the pawn goes to h6 because, well, you can just sacrifice to open up this king. Pawn takes back, queen g6 check, king to f8, and already it's a forced checkmate. Queen f6, cutting off the escape square for the king. And here, black played king g8. Of course, you cannot try to block with either your queen or your bishop here. Let's say queen to e7. Well, now you blocked your only escape square, and now it's just checkmate in the corner over here. And gosh, there really is nothing good to play here against something like rook e6. And again, it's a nice checkmate in 2. Queen h8 check, king e7, knight to f5 for check and mate. In the game here, what happened was after the queen went to f6, the king went back to g8, and after this move, well, black just resigns. Remember, the queen cannot checkmate by herself. There's lots of ways to win here, but I like the way that Geller finishes off the game. Rook over to e3, just bringing in more reinforcements. And once the rook gets to g3 here, again, it's just going to be over. The other thing I would say, if you're thinking about knight to f5, this actually is the top move, and a very good one. Maybe Geller didn't like the idea of black even having the option to sacrifice his queen just to survive. So something like rook e3 doesn't even allow these kind of options. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this nice Ruy Lopez miniature. We'll see you in the next video.